Yo, people, welcome back to another live stream, and we're here for episode 14 of the After the Boundary show. Oh, and today we got a lot to discuss. We got the Ashes, Australia, bit of a stumble in that first test. Australian women regaining the Ashes, and they take that lead. What that's now going to be 12 years when the next time they play since England have won it. So that's one. um, West Indies versus India, but the main one is the Ashes, of course. That's the main one going around. So yeah, unfortunately, a few couldn't join. Ben Ben couldn't join due to Wi-Fi network issues and stuff like that, and then one of the few other people just could not make it with this time, so that's all right. But I'm not alone, as always. I'm joined by Mr. Reliable, Mr. Fantastic, Money.
Evening, Bert. Thank you for those compliments. And yeah, always good fun to be on this cricket show because it is, of course, a nice change from all of the action taking place with the football. Obviously, the action is more transfer related, but you know, uh, it's something relaxing, something which I enjoy talking about. I have also sent an invitation to another person to possibly join a little bit late, and maybe, if possibly, could come on a little bit later. But if by that time our stream is over and done with, then all apologies. We'll get him on the next one. But yeah, it's been an interesting week, full of good. Obviously, with the tennis, you'll be quite happy with what happened today in southwest London.
Yeah, the tennis. Look, I was actually cheering for Djokovic to win. Until I heard a commentator saying that if Djokovic win, he will equal Federer's 8 titles at Wimbledon. Then I was like, nah, 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 come, we need to switch this around. Alcaraz, um,
Yeah.
come on, up the Spaniards. So yeah, but that was close to the fifth set. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Alcaraz was, of course, yeah, it did go to a fifth set, and Alcaraz, of course, was expected to do well in the French Open, but didn't quite get far. And Djokovic was able to win, but to win Wimbledon, of course, the way he's been able to do. We could talk about tennis another time, but great achievement for him. Players, yeah, as I said, as great a player as Djokovic is, his attitude is his worst enemy. But anyway, it's time to talk some cricket, so let's get back to it.
yeah. Now I enjoy tennis. I would do it more, but first need to build up more of an audience on here before we can do that.
Yeah, we did a watch along though for the Australian Open Women's Final, which is quite fun. I think Ryan
Yeah,
especially enjoyed that.
yeah. So yeah, let's talk cricket. Australia 2-1 lead into this Ashes. Um, and I think most people were thinking only way England were going to win this if they can use the pace of Markwood, um, and well, not the pace of Chris Wilkes, but something different that Chris Wilkes brings than and uh, uh who did I replace him with? Then I can't remember. Who.
He
I think
he came in for Josh Tongue, who was a similar sort
yeah,
of
for
bowler,
Tongue.
and Wokes
Yeah,
came in
for
for
Tongue.
Anderson.
Yeah. So and I think that was almost the reason why why England won this test match was those two players, with the bowling and with the bat. Really, if you look at it, but I say I'm surprised at what Australia how they performed, but pro should have expected it, because I think usually Australia, when they to England, they have that one-off test where they're a bit off. Same with England when they to Australia, and I think this one was that one. They were just a bit lackluster, and I think another one to bring in is that they weren't really. I don't think they were. They're expecting the pitch to do so much, because the past two tests, the pitch didn't do so much. This test, the pitch done madness. You saw a bit of reverse swing at one stage from Mitchell Stark. So it's it it's interesting to see how it's almost differ the two tests, where in the second test you would say England were were off it completely, except maybe Josh Tang and Ben Stokes, but that's the only. And then yeah, for Australia, the only two people you could say were on it were Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head and Mitchell Stark, I would say, or Pat Cummins. I would go Stark. So it's it's amazing how it can differ. What was your reaction just on when you saw the lineup, saw what a pitch was doing, and and of course in taking in that the result that's happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, let's give credit to Ben Stokes for making the only decision that could be made when you win the toss at Headingley, and that is stick the opposition in. But it's also really important to make sure that the bowlers take advantage of the conditions, because I do seem to remember a test about 20 or so years ago when I believe it was Saurav Ganguly's Indian team which came to the English shores, and England were, of course, captained by Nasser Hussain at the time. They had lost. They suffered a huge defeat at Lords, India, despite Ajit Agarkar doing what Sachin Tendulkar couldn't do, and that is score a Test century at the home of cricket. So he got himself on the honours board, and after sticking it in with Hussain winning the toss, they proceeded to see India rack up 600 runs. And when England batted, India forced to follow on, and England ended up losing by an innings. And that was supposed to be a test where, with the likes of Matthew Hoggard and others being bowling the way they did, I believe, if memory serves me right, Darren Gough and Andrew Caddick were still very much leading the attack well. India basically blunted them and went on to do well. So the change to the bowling lineup had to take place, and obviously a bit harsh on Josh Tongue, but Mark Wood is obviously a lot more experienced and probably experienced and a more complete bowler. Certainly a very fast bowler who can certainly bang it short, hit the deck hard, but also really pitch it up quite well. And then Wokes and both the two W's combined to ensure a third W, the win for England. But bowling wise, I thought they got it spot on. Stokes got it spot on with his decisions. Obviously, starting with Broad, he basically terrorized David Warner once again, and Usman Khawaja had to try and drop anchor as best as he could. And I was probably a little bit disappointed when Wood was taken out of the attack when Steve Smith came in for his 100th test, because when a new batsman comes in and you've got a bowler like Wood who's on song magnificently. You want to make sure that you keep up the intensity at least for an over or two. And I would have kept Wood on for one more over to just scare the bejesus out of the former Australian captain. But it only ended up costing about 22 runs anyway, and that was an example of quality seam bowling at its finest. And if memory serves me right, I remember doing a watch along for the morning session on that first day. So I think Cummins will probably end up regretting losing the toss and batting. Yeah, stupid Wi-Fi issues on my side, but it's as if I have to wait for everything to sort of clear. But as I said, Cummins will probably end up regretting those words he said, because I'll tell you what, the way Australia were bowling, they really made it crystal clear that when it comes to Headingley, you bowl first on winning the toss, and then make sure your bowlers do the right thing by bowling to the give the batsman. Yeah. So I would definitely say that England got it spot on with their bowling, and of course they had them at about 90 odd for four by lunch. And then of course I couldn't see what happened afterwards because I was busy, but that was a brilliant counter attack by Mitchell Marsh, but we will come to that. But when it comes to bowling, obviously England did the right thing by making sure they never really let up. And when you've got someone like Wood who bowls at about 90 odd miles an hour, kilometers an hour, miles an hour rather, yeah, miles an hour, I was right the first time, and could really either hit the deck hard or pitch it up and really rattle your stumps. You've got an ace in your pack, and so it was a harsh decision probably to get rid of James Anderson because the wicket would have suited him. And of course, if things go the way they do, England are not going to change a winning team. So Anderson might miss out on a home farewell possibly. But you've got to do the right thing to ensure that England have a better chance. And at least with this bowling performance, they know that they have an attack which can really trouble the Australian batsmen. And so David Warner, Usman Khawaja, do a lot of work to try and come. Yeah, as I said, Australia's batsmen are going to have to do a lot of work to try and come to grips with this bowling attack, because Warner once again, met an edge induced when you've got someone bowling around the wicket, nicking off to the slips, and he had to go. So Australia's batting has a few problems, and not even century to really pay over to any of those cracks. Hannah, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Um, yeah, I get what you mean. And it felt really reluctant from um from Australia almost. But I think these 8 to 9 days they've rested, I think we'll help them, but we'll get onto that a bit later more. But first, some comments. Be up yourself, Chelsea fan, as always. Yeah, do keep smashing that like button. Um, oh, Australia woman. Oh, yeah, well done to them. Um, uh, yeah, money. Yeah, vamos to Alcaraz. I think that was. Be up yourself, to Blues podcast. Yeah, do again. Get them up. Um, yeah, same. The only thing I'm really shaking my head about is, of course, when we did that predictions, I said England first, and then by mistake, and if only I stuck with that. So yeah, but before we continue on, do check out our channel sponsor, Global Foot Kids. You guys can use this link there. I've posted and use code Coach Corner for 10% off of any order. Um, it's not mad expensive kits like you would buy at the club. It's below £20 at most. Also, it's authentic. It's cheap. Do check them out. And on Wednesday, there will be a big drop. 30 kits will be added from the six that are there now. Could have your pick. So of what you like. At the moment, there is a Manchester United 0 sorry 10-11 home shirt, and then uh, there's a Madrid 2020 and 21 home shirt. I think most of you would like. There's also Rangers and Leeds one, but I think those are the most you guys will be interested in right now. So do check them out, people. But yeah, let's continue more onto the match. Of course, incredible start for England. Got rid of David Warner. We will discuss him in a bit, but they just took everything to storm on day one. We saw Trey Bold out. Mitchell Marsh in 2019. He said or was it 2019 was it maybe 2021? I think it was 2019. Said all of Australia hates me. Um, and and after that knock of 180, I think all of Australia want him back. Love him now. So yeah, of course that's a memorable whole thing for him. And I'm happy for him that he's been able to do that. And then the tail didn't do much for Australia. Travis Head, um, again, he's been out of those three, Labashade, Smith, and Nady's been the best one. Travis Head, so gotta give him some props. And then of course later on the day we saw Ben Duckett and Mr. Zach Crawley until the end of the play get 27 runs, I believe. No, I think it was less. That was the second innings. Let me just make sure with you guys on how many it was. Um, let's just so Australia were bowled out for 263, and England batted on that same day. No, yeah, that was. Oh, then they lost all those wickets. Of course.
Yep.
How can I forget that? It was Ben Duckett. He was caught behind. I remember that now. He was caught behind. Harry Brook. I believe played a pull shot to go out, and then Zach Crawley. No, well, was it? Who got the Yorker? Let me just see. Um, oh, no, the Yorker was only the Yorker was in the second innings.
Yep.
Was it? Yeah, that was in the second innings. In England's first innings, they were all caught behind, almost. Yeah, all caught behind. That was another one. Um, caught by Smith, Marsh, and Kerry. So, yeah. And I believe they were 68 for four, and then Bairstow and Stokes started the day. Or might be Root and Bairstow. No, I think it was based on Stokes started the day, and then of course from there on it was madness. Stokes getting 80 runs again. He's been England's best batter so far this entire Test match. So what did you make of just the day first, day one and day two, until just before Australia came out to bat for the second time?
Yeah, I think when it came to the Australian batting after Mitchell Marsh's century, Australia had some chance to try to, really press home some advantage they had gained, and of course it was a brilliant partnership of, I want to say, 155 between Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head that really um, rested a great deal of advantage. What really struck me about Marsh's innings, and I wasn't able to see the highlights, but the stats tell a story. A run a ball 118, he got a century off 102 balls. He really, rested a lot of the initiative away from the England bowlers and really put them so far on the back foot. It was quite scary, and it was 28 overs, more than 28 overs before England got the wicket of Mitchell Marsh, caught by Zach Crawley, and the Aussie tail, for once wasn't quite able to wag. Even Cummins, of course, getting out for a second ball duck, and Wood basically mopping up the tail. And there's seldom there's seldom a greater sight in cricket than seeing a really, really fast bowler, bowling those Yorkers or what have you. Maybe not necessarily the reverse swinging Yorkers like Wakar Yunus used to do, but certainly being ferocious enough to be able to mop up the tail. And that's exactly what Mark Wood did. And that was why, in as much as it was harsh on Josh Tong, who I thought was outstanding at Lords in the chance he got, Wood was just a more complete bowler, as I said. And Australia ended up on 263, but it was, obviously with England once again flattering to deceive with the bat. I believe they were 87 for 5 with Johnny Bairstow getting out before Stokes continued that recovery where he left off, and he basically did what Mitchell Marsh was able to do, and that is start pummeling the bowling everywhere. 6 4s and 5 6s tell their own story, and the lower middle order chipping in. Ali with 21, Wood, of course, coming in and coming really good with 24 runs at a strike rate of exactly 300, 3 big sixes and 1 boundary. And Wood also proved himself to be quite useful, so as did Wokes. So, as I said, those 2 W's combined together with the Willow to bring out the win. So there's 4 W's being used. But this, once again, highlights a big problem with the English top and middle order, in that they're so dependent on the likes of Joe Root and or Ben Stokes, that every now and then you're going to get these really inconsistent runs of form from the top 3, be it Crawley, Duckett, or even Brooke. And they will either get in and score rapidly, or they will get out scoring and get out quite cheaply. And you really want to see batsmen become a lot more consistent in their approach and the way they play the game, and that is not what we get at the moment at the best of times. And I think those top order failures probably was what cost England some valuable runs, and England ended up having a 26-run deficit. Full credit should go to Pat Cummins for marshalling the bowling attack well and recovering from being tonked around earlier to finish with 6 wickets. Stark, of course, picking up 2 in between, and Todd Murphy having the last word, getting rid of Ben Stokes, who tried 1 big hit too many. But aside from Scott Boland, who was rather unpenetrative, and Mitchell Marsh, who did his best but was able to get a wicket, the other bowlers were a little bit expensive, going about 4 and over. Cummins, in fact, went for 5. So you see rapid runs, but you also see wickets being lost. And this is where England are really going to have to, tweak their approach, in that when you go into bat, you want to take advantage of the conditions. You can't always blame everything on the conditions of on the pitch conditions. You sometimes got to show a bit more application, and you also can't keep depending on your current captain or your former skipper to score some big runs and bail you out of trouble. And the less said about Johnny Bairstow's failure in this test, in his home test, the better. Dropped more than a few catches and didn't really add too much with the bat in either innings, it must be said. But Australia did well to recover. They really showed England what they were made of and had an advantage. But then, of course, coming to the third innings, England just picked up where they left off.
Yeah, definitely. But as we're going to quickly end now, I want you to just talk about Australia's second innings, and I wouldn't say the collapse, but something like that. Warner again nicked off cheaply from Broad, but take it through. Australia's second innings, and then how England got home.
Yeah, once again, Warner getting out very cheaply, basically becoming Broad's bunny again. And this seems to be a big problem with left-handed batsmen when they have to face these fast bowlers, coming round the wicket. It was the same problem that Andrew Strauss had near the end of his career. You just bowl around the wicket, cramp the batsman up for room, and he'll nick off to the slips, and that's exactly what Warner's been doing this series. But another big problem with Warner is that unlike Usman Khawaja, who I say very often plays with the bat sort of facing down, so that when the ball does come onto the bat, you don't really get an edge that carries to the slips as such. Warner still plays with a straighter bat, which a much straighter bat with a straighter face. So it just goes off the bat and flies to the slip cordon. And Zach Crawley, with his big bucket hands, just has to move a little bit and get his hand to it, and he's gone. And that's how it's proved. He was caught by Crawley off Broad in both innings. So he went with the score on 11, and of course Khawaja once again, really proved his outstanding improvement ever since coming back to the Test team, dropping anchor very well with an innings of 43, and could have gone even further. But then Wokes, of all people, caught him napping, edging a catch behind. A useful partnership for the second wicket of 57 between Khawaja and Labuschagne. But then Smith also had a dismal test with 2 runs, and then Travis Head came in and also started a bit of a counter-attacking play, 3 sixes and 7 fours. He also batted quite well and was willing to try to hold the innings together. But then once Broad got him out, it was once again a matter of time. Mitchell Marsh also coming and giving his best, and we should be. Getting another one to join in. I'm just going to text him right now. So he will be coming on to talk to us, and we're going to get some of his inputs. But once again, it was a case of the English bowlers really, making their advantage count and just picking up where they left off, not allowing themselves to get dispirited by not batting well enough. And then shooting Australia out for 224 meant that England had a target of about 251, 3 wickets each for Broad and Wokes, Mark Wood and Moeen Ali also combining for 4 wickets, 1 part-time over for Joe Root. And we're just going to have another guest joining in right now, and we are very delighted to have him on. And we haven't really, it's just as well that we haven't discussed too much, but it is terrific to have him come on and talk and offer his inputs.
Yeah,
but the third innings obviously ended with Australia all out for 224. And so when it came to England getting their target, they started well enough with a very rapid partnership of 42 for the first wicket. And you could see that in the way they approached things, even Joe Root looking okay, but then getting out early. But Harry Brook holding it together quite magnificently, and then Wokes and Wood just doing what Cummins and Lyon did and taking England home. I think what they did was with Mitchell Starc, despite Mitchell Starc's 5 wickets, it was a case of being Australia being over dependent on Starc and Cummins, and Murphy, who of course came in for the injured Nathan Lyon, has pretty much. I mean, he sort of had a baptism of fire in this Ashes series and wasn't quite able to get to grips with the way England's batsmen were playing, and you could tell that they had the crowd behind them. And so, a very, very morale boosting win, and I'm absolutely I'm absolutely quite happy with them. And this is sort of an indicator of the new approach that England have, in that they're trying to be a little bit more fearless, but. On this occasion, it's worked a great deal, and this is probably one of the best ways to make sure you have a chance of winning an Ashes series. Do not let them get under your skin. Do not fall for any of their barbs or taunts. I think Australia have certainly tried to play it some cool under Cummins and say, you know what, we're still the bosses and we still have the 2-1 advantage. But I tell you what, England do have some momentum, and it will take a Herculean effort from Australia to get back. To win the 4th test or secure the results they need to make sure they retain the urn. Because as the England women have proved, they're not going to give that up without a fight.
Yeah. For me, these last 2 innings, I think it almost just summed up Australia's one. So
sorry to interrupt you, but we are making an introduction, and making his debut on the channel, Kenny Ken. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello, hi everyone. So you know what? I was cooking the Sunday lunch. I didn't have my phone because I was in and out. Because I was in and out cooking. I didn't have my phone. I was watching the Women's Ashes, and congratulations Australia. They've retained the Women's Ashes, winning by 3 runs in Southampton. But just thanks for having me on. Just want to say that Wednesday D-Day, but you'll have to say for me, I'm convinced that the Australians will win the next test. I think they'll go up a different gear. I think they'll make some changes. They could go with an all-pace attack for me.
Yeah, we're going to discuss that actually, like when we do a preview for the 4th test as well. And of course, we just finished our discussion of the 3rd test, and we're going to get your inputs as well. But first of all, you're making your debut on this channel. It's a first cricket podcast. I know your background as a football player. Obviously, football is more of your main thing. You've played at university level and you know the game like a walking, talking encyclopedia. But what really made me so happy to have you here is that when we see your stories on Instagram, Kenny Ken 1972 for people who are interested, you post a lot of cricket stuff. So what's your background on the sport? Did you play often when you were a youngster? And what were your greatest memories?
Well, yeah, I played a lot when I was a youngster because I played local. I played whenever we could. We used to have what like a bit of cricket. It was like cricket where we lived, not too in Islington. Also, there was a cricket pitch in Ray Crescent, and also I played a bit of school cricket as well. So I could bat or I can bowl. But I've always had an interest in cricket. Obviously, I go all the way back to like the probably 1979 World Cup. Wow. When the West Indies won the World Cup, and also, you can't talk about the World Cup without talking about 81 Ashes. Obviously, Ian Botham was my hero. He's a cricketer. For me, he's the best all-rounder I've ever seen. I know people are going to say Jack Callis is the best cricketer I've ever seen. I understand that. For me, it's Ian Botham because I never saw Sir Garfield Sobers play, which is a big regret. But I was too young. But Ian Botham. There was a period, I think, between 1977 and probably 1982 when he was the best cricketer in the world. Without a shadow of a doubt, he was winning a lot of individual honours. I think, even after 1982, he still played cricket. I think he went off the boil probably after the 1985 Ashes where he got injuries with his back. But, he's definitely my hero. And obviously that cricket team with Gower as well, big fan of Gower. Fan of Gucci, I go all the way back, and then even, watching England during the lean years when there was a period between 86 and 1998 when England didn't win a series against a major test playing nation until they beat South Africa in 98. So that's as far as my knowledge of going. Because at the time, India, sorry to say it, weren't considered the top nation that they are now.
Don't apologise. I'm an England fan first and foremost.
Yeah, I know, but you think about it. Pakistan, in sort of like between 86 and 98, the top nations were the West Indies, Pakistan, Australia, and South Africa. Yeah. And England. If you looked at English cricket, within I think after there's a period when England couldn't even win a home Test series. It was so bad. The doldrums, of English cricket. Then obviously after 95 and after Hussein was probably like one of my favourite captains because I think he brought professionalism and a winning attitude into England, and he put fire back into English cricket, and Vaughan took over. Because when you talk about the 2005 Ashes, I think Nasser Hussain deserves a lot of credit because of the fact that you think about the players that are prominent in the Ashes of 2005, all played under Hussain. Vaughan, Flintoff, Harmison, Jones, all through Hussain. All through Hussain, they were main players. Obviously, in fact, the four-pronged bowling attack of England all came from Hussain. Matthew Hoggard from Hussain, Chostovic, Hussain. So Hussain, like I said, deserves a lot more credit than he gives himself for. And then after the Ashes, there was a bit of a doldrum. And then obviously, Andrew Strauss had that great side with Cook and him opening. You know what I mean? So, with Flower as well. So it goes all the way back. But now we've got baseball.
Yeah, exactly. So when you played, were you more of a batsman or a bowler or an all-rounder perhaps?
I could do a bit of both. I actually bowled quite a bit, but I haven't played for about 27 years. But I still watch as much cricket as I can. Obviously, there's no doubt in my mind. Football's my first love, and boxing. Football and boxing is my love. But
yeah,
but I still keep an eye on the cricket. I've stayed up to watch the Ashes when England play the Australians. I'm aware that that at the moment, the best Test playing side in the world is India. But again, they had the resources in a way they never had the resources previously, especially during the 80s and 90s. They were very, what I call, seen as a small nation by England and Australia. But now, with the economy and the money they make in terms of TV money, they're going to dominate for a long, long while. And there's players coming through.
Yeah, there are players coming through, but the problem is, obviously, they're up against a West Indies team that are quite simply a shambles, and I'm sure you can agree with that. But so Hannah and I were talking about the the third test rather, than we were talking about each and every inning, and I think we've pretty much discussed everything. But I'd like to ask you a few questions. I think you and I can all agree that the toss was a good toss for Ben Stokes to win. You've got to stick the opposition in a Headingley no matter what. Although you might remember in 2002, 2003, when Sourav Ganguly's men came to England to play against Nasser Hussain's boys, we stuck them in at Headingley, hoping to bowl them out, but they scored 600 runs. They forced us to follow on and beat us by an innings. If we had won that test, we would have won the series, but sadly it didn't pan out that way. But this time around, we had the bowling attack to really take advantage of the conditions. Wood coming in for Josh Tongue, probably a harsh decision, but Wokes replacing Anderson, it had to happen. Jimmy was not really that, effective. I mean, are you satisfied with the changes that were made, and do you see this bowling attack playing in the test at Old Trafford?
No, I think it's going to be very much horses for courses, really. Because obviously one of the things about there's discussions of whether Anderson will come in again because obviously he's playing his home test. Probably it's going to be his last match for England. I don't think there's any sentiment on it because he knows Old Trafford pitches better than anyone else. And with Robinson, it's definitely not going to play. No way is Robinson going to play. So it's a choice between Tongue and Anderson. One of the things that Old Trafford will produce is real pace off the wicket. Just as much, probably just as much, if not a little bit more pace than Headingley proposed. So obviously the slips are going to come into into play, especially if if bowlers hit the edges. So the argument is, do you play tongue over wood because of the fact that the Australians don't really like much pace. But the thing is, if you play two out and out fast bowlers, you do leave out maybe a sort of a fast medium bowler who's got a bit of a skill like Anderson, could bowl wobble seam and obviously can swing it, because I think what will happen is that the Aussies weren't used to the pace of Wood in the last test. This time they're going to be ready for Wood. They're going to probably not try and take him on when he bowls short, and then if he bowls the odd ball, they're going to go for it, because with fast bowlers on a fast pitch, it's good for batsmen as well. It's probably going to be a situation where it's probably going to be maybe a spinner as well, because spinners do like a bit of bounce as well. Is Moeen good enough to exploit the bounce? I don't think so. I think in terms of where England are going to win the match, it's definitely got to be.
I think it is, and I think we saw that in the second innings of Australia, where he picks up the two crucial wickets of
I think the thing with Moeen is that he gets you out because of the reason you go after Moeen. I think he probably bowled a lot better in the first test, where he actually got more turn than he actually than he in the second test. If you look at the wickets that he got with Labuschagne and Smith, they were going over after Moeen in order to like I said, to force through and put England under pressure. But in terms of like at Old Trafford, Moeen will get a lot of bounce, and I think that will be to his detriment. But if you think about in terms of like the spinners who exploit the bounce, there's no better bowler than Nathan Lyon, so he's going to be a massive miss. But Moeen as well, with his batting as well,
we're going to have to wait to clear it.
Yeah. So I think Moeen obviously does give a lot to the team. But sometimes I just think he can be expensive, where if he's not taking wickets or, like I said, frustrating them out, then he can be a bit of liability.
And that finger injury which he sustained might possibly be a factor there. But
no, I think I was giving him some ointment. I gave him some ointment where I think that he's cleared the actual wound, and his fingers back being dry, so he'll be fine for Wednesday.
Okay, that's perfect. But obviously, we spoke about the morning session when England were able to knock off those 4 wickets for less than 100 runs, and they were on top. But then Mitchell Marsh came in and played an absolute gem of an innings, really. Gem doesn't even do it justice, 100 off 102. And what was interesting about that innings, Kenny, was that he was able to, really employ that sort of counter-attacking style of play, which took the initiative away. And if he had some better support from, the batsmen, because for once the Aussie tail didn't wag, it was basically he and Travis Head who were, doing their bit to try to take everything further. What would you say was that thing which set Marsh's innings apart from the rest of the batsmen, and why couldn't they do what Marsh did?
You've got to remember that, Mitchell Marsh has played on the Wacker, because, like one of the fastest pitches in world cricket, Preview is the Wacker. So, he's used to, the bounce. He likes the ball coming to the bat. So, when the English batsmen pitch it short, he's ready. It's not a case where, the pitch, there isn't uneven bounce. There's true bounce, and that's what Mitchell Marsh it's going to like. He's, the conditions were perfect for Mitchell Marsh in terms of the batting, and he's a very, very attacking batsman. I think the thing with Marsh as well is that Australians have a love and hate affair with him.
Hannah was talking about that actually.
Yeah, because I think they're not sure whether he's good enough or not. But one thing is that he's a very good team man, but I think if you look at his numbers, they're good, but he doesn't really get a chance. And I think what's hampered Mitchell Marsh is when he has had his chance, there's been inconsistency, especially with the ball. But again, it's the emergence of Cameron Green, who the Aussies have got massive hopes for. They hope he's going to turn out to be a great a great all-rounder. So that's another thing with Mitchell Mars. I know the Aussies are talking about playing both of them, which is, I don't know. You've got to play one of them. You've got to play one or the other.
We'll get on that later. But you spoke there on the true bounce, and I think that's one thing that caught most of the batters in both Australia's second innings and England's second innings is the pitch. Um, at a few places where the ball just stepped, and on other times the balls bounced up a few times. But where in the first innings it was true bounce, like I said,
Yeah.
that's where Mitch Marsh could score those runs, and so yeah, it's a tough call. That's all around the one for Australia, but we'll talk about that a bit later.
You know what I think it is? I think
Yeah.
Cameron Green probably gives them more with the ball because I think he can bowl. Cameron, Mitchell Marsh. Mitchell Marsh is probably more 79 miles per hour, 83 at best. Cameron Green can ratchet up and get more pace off the pitch. So, obviously the average is about 83, 84, but Cameron Green can go to 88, 89. And I think in terms of that is probably going to sort of, bring him into the game as well. But the thing is, as you said, Cameron Green, good in the field, brilliant catching, but in terms of contributions to bat, he hasn't really had a chance to make any, telling contributions.
And
but again, he plays at whacker as well. He plays at whacker, so he's used to the fight to the bouncy wickets as well. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and the thing about, of course, the batting, why it's a lot more important, is that you take a look at the top and middle order. Obviously, Warner, getting himself out early to broaden both innings. The worst part about it, if you take a look at that, is that is the same problem which affected Andrew Strauss near the end of his career. Both of them, of course, are left-handed batsmen, but when you have a situation where you've got a really penetrative right-arm fast bowler bowling around the wicket, cramping you up for room, basically what happens is that as a lefty, you just nick off to the slips. You got Zach Crawley with his big bucket hands there, or Cameron Green for Australia, and then out you go. So if you notice the difference between, and I was talking about the difference between how Khawaja and Warner play, Khawaja basically angles his bat a bit down, so you don't. So when there is an edge, it doesn't carry. Do you see Warner's international career continuing beyond this series? Because it looks as though he might have to make a few technical adjustments to his game. Getting out to Stuart Broad again and again and again is not a good look, let me tell you now.
Yeah, but I think there's talk of David Warner that the next home series in Australia, that will be when he retires. I know the Australians got. I think they got in Australia. I know they got the West Indies, but I think they got another. I think for about 2 or 3 tests, but I think there's another. Who has they got? I don't know. Is it Pakistan?
Yeah, he said that he wanted to retire after the series against Pakistan.
Yeah, so it's against Pakistan. So Warner's going to retire anyway. But there was talk if Australia went 3-0 up, they might have left Warner out, and because the Ashes already won and go to the future. But because the Ashes is a close run thing, they probably will play Warner. But yeah, I think there's a thing with David Warner. I think he's been a very, very great batsman for Australia. But if you look at his like I said, his record away from Australia, it's a bit mixed, isn't it? I don't see many hundreds from David Warner away from Australia. And in England, he's got starts, but he hasn't really managed to get away. I think the Ashes in 2019, I think Broad was all over him. But I think again, David Warner, he's very much of an offside player. That he likes his square cuts and he likes to come down the pitch and hit over the top. But I think what the Aussies did to Byron Lara in when they won the series in '95, they bowled a kind of legs side of kind of a sort of middle leg line, and then once they cramped up, they allowed him to have a swipe at down the offside, and he was always nicking it or playing on. And I think that's the same with Warner as well. They weren't bowling around the wicket to Brian Lara, but in terms of Warner, they're doing it in a sort of way. But I think with Stuart Broad, I think him and Otis Gibson, have devised that, because if you look at it, 2015, the Aussies had a lot of left-handers, and I think nowadays, in all forms of cricket, if you can't bowl to left-handers, then you won't have a career in the Test. Nathan Lyon, remember, he was left out in 2013, that first Test when they played Ashton Agar, because they said Nathan Lyon couldn't play against England's left-handers. So again, it's one of those things where left-handers with Warner. That's the line about to David Warner. But there's other things as well. David Warner's been used by Australian cricket. They're more than happy for it to be that snarling Aussie who got in the opposition's faces and became the leader of their sledging. But when the thing hit the fan in South Africa, it was like no leadership positions, and he's never going to get it. So he seems like they've whacked him harder than anyone else. So I think his autobiography is going to be very interesting, especially with Sandpaper Gate. We might find the truth, but then again, there's an old saying: everyone has their own truth. So Karen Bancroft, said something, took it back. We haven't heard from Stephen Smith yet what the situation is, all buff. But yeah, David Warner, he'll go down as a great cricketer. But I think Australia are going to need him for this Ashes, because simple reasons that I don't think they want to get a new opening partnership when the Ashes on the line. But when Australia have won the Ashes, I think David Warner's career is over. I don't think David Warner will even get the farewell tour in Australia. I think it'd be an opportunity for someone else to take over.
It could be.
Yeah,
it could be, and obviously with Khawaja coming in and really improving himself and adapting.
Well, Khawaja hasn't got long left either. Remember, him and Khawaja played together in Sydney as juniors, and so they're both 37, 36, 37. So Khawaja, he's probably got another year or two.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, the way he's been playing, let's take a look at how long the likes of Hayden and Langer played. He could still have maybe 2 years left if he continues his improvement.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think in Australian conditions, yeah, obviously they'll definitely have a look at him, but he definitely bats well in England, and he bats well in Pakistan, in the Asian countries, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and India. Because I think again, he's a patience player.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's turned himself into. He's the sort of person that doesn't give his wicket away, and he's a horrible runner between the wickets. You know what I mean? He does. There's no ones and twos with him.
Australian Pujara.
Yeah, another one. Jeffrey Boycott as well. Back in the day, Jeffrey Boycott.
I'm sure you remember that incident between both him and Bob Willis, yeah?
Yeah, in 78 when they were told to run out Jeffrey Boycott because he was batting too slowly. But obviously you've spent a lot of time in Australia. Graham Woods had a reputation of running out players.
Don't forget Inzamam ul Haq and other players too.
Don't that hit that.
We've seen Warner do this series is I think it was the second innings of the first test, or maybe the second test, where he decided to bat outside his crease, far outside his crease, and that's almost, I think, to just hit the ball before it swings, and it
definitely
at Lords, but at Headingley, I think the pace was just too much for him, and that can work on a slow pitch, but on a pitch that's as fast as Headingley, it's really difficult. But I think that technique could work. Will we see him for in 2 years' time when the Ashes is again? We will see. I think we might see him.
I don't think so. I think he's gone. I think he's done. I think he wants to. I think the thing about it with David Warner is like he's got a young family as well. And in terms of the touring, he always has his family alongside him. But I think the age was 37, 38. Can you see David Warner? The only way David Warner will come back is if they struggle with their openers, and I think they've struggled with their own openers for forever. Really, I mean, if you think about Hayden Langer, with the exception of Warner, Warner's been a good replacement for Hayden Langer. But who else with Warner? They've tried a lot of openers since, with Warner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
God bless his soul. You know, Philip Hughes was meant to be the next opener, but before his life was taken away from him, he was in and out of that Australian side. So
Yeah.
they've,
and
it's
same
a
with Kawaja.
yeah,
He was also
Kawhi as well. He was in and out as well.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. Well, e- even if I think in terms of the big bash of course the T20 league there in Australia, I don't really see any test openers there. So
I think that
um,
I think that they were thinking of going back to Matt Rainshaw, but obviously they've released him to go and play some county cricket, and then the name that always comes up is Harris.
Yeah.
They've used him a few times, have dropped him, but again, with if Warner retires, will players like Harris and Renshaw get a chance? There was another opener as well, Joe Burns as well from Queensland. I don't know. He's probably is he going to be back in contention? I know the age is not really on his side, but again, these are loads of questions that Australia are going to deal with when Warner retires, and we think that Warner's going to is probably going to be a goner before the Pakistan series. I can't see him getting his life right. I can see him getting a tap on his shoulder and him get replaced. That's what I think will happen, but you just never know. You never know. Australia, cricket Australia have never really been fair to David Warner in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when you consider how Stephen Smith was pretty much given a slap on the wrist compared to what happened with David Warner. You
Hmm.
really can't help but just be sickened at that. And I think obviously Warner will have to try to do whatever he can to his technique to try to cope with Broad, because if he is going to end up playing a role later on, then he will be expected to. Um, and play a bigger role. I mean, Khawaja can certainly be trusted to either play or drop anchor, and that's why I actually think that the way he's done, continue to do well since coming back, he could still have 2 more years, and we could definitely see
Could
him
could do.
in the home Ash. We could see him in the
Well,
home Ashes series
I
later
suppose I
on.
suppose if he could sort of yeah, but again, you're going to need a batsman who's going to sort of attack. So you think about attacking batsmen. Oh, is Renshaw going to be that sort of attacking opener? Because Renshaw comes across as someone who guards his wicket as well. And then you've got Harris. Again, he's a walking wicket as well, isn't he?
Yeah, it's certainly
yeah,
hard to come by. And speaking of walking wickets, Hanno, we're going to talk about this next topic because I know you prepared it. So maybe you can give your thoughts on this and we'll go on. Hanno.
yeah. Um, so for me personally, I've been surprised how of course Labuschagne, Smith, and Ed have bats. Not so much Ed, but more so Smith and Labuschagne, because except that 100 Smiths scored, he hasn't really contributed anything.
Mm,
And almost same with Labuschagne, except at 50 he scored. He hasn't really looked comfortable. We've seen him after that first test where it almost looked like he didn't know where where his off stump was, and that was key thing when he came into it. He knew when to leave the ball, and in the first test and even sometimes in the second test, he didn't know when to leave or when to play, and that was one of his strengths. Um, and county cricket in England has almost he said it in an interview as almost negatively affect him because he's thinking about that ball to swing in and hit him on his legs where in the past he didn't think about it. He just
mm,
played naturally, left the ball, and when the ball came to his bats, he just played it normally. Now he's worried about it. He's changed his technique and it hasn't worked. Now he's trying to go back to his old technique.
mm,
Smith, he's been on and off. He hasn't really had much confidence like the Smith we expected this Ashes Test match, especially after what we saw in the World Test Championship where saw him
Mm,
almost destroy the Indian bowler. So I don't. For me, it's a tough one with them because they don't really have anyone else to replace these
mm.
replace Smith or Oliver Shane, and I don't think they should. But if if it's something they might need to think about, I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think,
Kenny,
Kenny?
you can go first.
Well, I think. You know, you made an interesting point about like both of them playing in the county cricket, but I think in England, the problem with the county cricket is that in a county championship, because they want to get results, the groundsmen produce green wickets, so you don't have to bowl 90 miles an hour. You just bowl 78, 80 miles an hour, and you get batsmen out. So Smith and Lavishane are preparing on green wickets, but international wickets are not like that. I think another thing with Lavishane as well, it's he wasn't he wasn't under much pressure when he first came to the side. He was, he was enjoying his cricket. There wasn't much pressure, but I think it has taken its toll because I think with when he comes into bat, he's coming into a very, very new ball. Because if Warner gets out early, he's coming into a new ball. England are bowling the kind of areas where they're trying to tempt him, off stump. Where when 4 years ago he was leaving those balls, and he was and what were they doing? England were bowling straight at his legs, and that's when he was getting his runs. Or they were bowling too short and he's hitting them square. England's bowling plans to Lavishane have been brilliant this series, and I think he is a bit out of sorts, but I think a lot of credit has to go to the English bowlers within him, because you just have to look at the highlights from 4 years ago. What he was doing, leaving, and he was very strong with his legs, and he bowled straight. So that it was going, it was going. But England devised a plan where they're giving him nothing to hit or anything, and so what's happening? He's looked at as a player can score quickly. He's not scoring quickly. It always happens in all forms of cricket. The great players, if they don't score quickly, they try and force the issue, and that's where mistakes happen. You look at the wickets of that Marine got of both of them, both Smith and Lavishane. They were trying to force a pace because England were bowling a tight line, giving them nothing to hit. But again, it's his technique as well, going after everything. Smith, I think there's a bit. I think we look at Smith and we look at what he did 4 years ago, where he was consistently, he basically won the Ashes for Australia, even though Australia did 2-2. He's raft of runs. But what happens in cricket when you're a run machine, people will work you out and try and stop your runs. Look at Brian Lara in '94. Couldn't get him out, but teams went away and worked at working their strengths. And then when you put these batsmen under pressure, they make mistakes. And I think England's bowling plans for both players has probably kept in the Ashes and kept the series closer than what it should be. Because 4 years ago, those two players would have taken the form they win would have taken the Ashes away from England. In terms of Travis Head has worked his way, struggled at first, but he's actually devised a way where he knows when to leave, he knows when to be aggressive, and also he's learnt how to play the short ball. I think what's happening now is that England are trying to pepper him in the short ball because he had I think they thought he had problems in the last Ashes series, even though they lost 4-0, and he knows what's coming. He knows they're going to go short. So what will happen is that he sometimes he will take it on, and sometimes he won't. He won't take it on unless he feels he can middle it. And I think that's where he's kind of worked it out. In terms of Smith and Lavishane, it's again Smith's frustrated because they're bowling a tight line. Again, it just requires a bit of patience, because I think the pressure on them when Warner gets out early is for them to force the pace and put pressure back on England. When really you've got to remember it's a test match. It's test match cricket. It's about time.
Exactly, and it reminds me of a sort of an incident, of course, when I mean, obviously, Sunil Gavaskar of India was regarded as a great batsman by many of his opponents, including the West Indies, so much so that there was even a Calypso number made about him. I think there was an instance where he decided to come in at one drop, number 3, to give some other openers a chance. But then I think it was in the first over, one of them got out. So Gavaskar came in, and I think one of the batsmen Fields made a crack at him saying, "Man, it doesn't matter when you come into bat, the score will always be 0." I'm sorry, the accent came out horribly, but I mean, that was,
I think
yeah.
All I can say about Cyril Gavaskar, thank God, thank God England, when England won the World Cup in '83, they won it in spite of him. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember his first, journey into one-day cricket. He actually thought it was a test match. He was not out, but he hardly scored any runs. So
36 not out. I remember. I learned to read about that. Yeah. And we also can't talk about the top 3 batsmen in the world without talking about a certain Joseph Edward Root, who was of course briefly number 1 again, especially after that century at Edgbaston. He also has been, not contributing too much. Although, I mean, he's played some pretty knocks, looked good in some areas, but he's also trying to force the issue. We can't forget his attempt at the reverse sweep in the second innings. I think it was at Lord's when England lost that. No, it was at Edgbaston. I remember.
Edgbaston.
Yeah, it was at Edgbaston. And since then, he's
got
also
himself
been
stumped as well in the second innings.
Yeah. He's stumped. I mean, coming down to Nathan Lyon, missing it completely, and Carey did the rest. And even here also, I take a look at Joe Root and see a guy who's been caught in 2 minds, basically. He's been publicly embracing this new style of cricket where people go all out. But he scored most of his runs and obviously has more than 10,000 test runs to his name in about 130-odd tests by playing as more of the correct, dependable batsman who comes in at 1 drop or 2 drop and holds everything together. And so while adding that new repertoire to his batting has looked good for him, I think for some reason a guy of his experience shouldn't really be getting caught in 2 minds, although I suppose you may never be too old to learn something new, and maybe he feels as though he wants to try to force the pace as well.
I think it's the way England are playing. I think England have got a clear style of play where, Bazball's about chasing big targets and putting and basically Bazball's is about batting all the way down. That even when you're out of the game, you still got players who can like I said, win the game from you. And I think what Joe Root's rolling within Bazball is to set it up and score quickly, which he's more than capable of being. Because again, he's the best batsman in the world. But again, I think another thing as well. If you think about 2019 test, there was a line where if you think about Joe Root's dismissals, I think the guy who got him out a lot of time was Cummins, wasn't it? It was either caught LBW, caught behind, or bowled. So again, he's having to devise a way to deal with Cummins, because Gavin Cummins is always going to bowl in that area, that nagging area between off stump and the 5th and 6th stump. So again, it's trying to devise his technique and try and stop that those areas and try and be less predictable. And I think that a lot of it's probably why he's playing like that. But I think primarily it's because of the way McCullum and Stokes want to play. They want England to put the opposition under a lot of pressure immediately, and that's why they're going for their shots. Anything that's in the slot, you hit. Like one-day cricket, or if the ball's short, you hit for 4. They're not messing about. It's all about putting pressure, either by chasing the game or when they're trying to put a big total with them on the deck. They want to make sure that they bring their bowlers into the game, especially if they're batting first. So they need Root to score quickly.
I get that. I do get that. And, there shouldn't be any danger of Root being dropped from the team as well, because bear in mind, this is obviously going to be a young England team because Broad and Anderson should retire soon. Stokes will obviously be leaning on Root a little bit for some tactical advice, maybe, and he does have plenty of years left in the game. I just worry, and I think the biggest worry about Bazball is, and this segues into the bigger issue, is that it's wonderful to sort of adopt a new 2020 approach to batsmanship where if the ball is in the slot, as you said, you've got to try and hit it. But we've also been speaking about patience. And nobody's suggesting that we throw the Bazball baby out with the bathwater, not by any means. But surely, someone like McCullum, who has a Test triple ton to his name, knows all about patience as well as being able to hit big when the situation desires. That is something, obviously, that it should be a continued process, and I'm sure you can find agreement with that.
Well, the thing with Bazball's it's not new. It's nothing new. You think about, the Aussies under Steve Waugh and Mark Taylor. You think about the opening partnership between Hayden and Langer. There was, whilst other countries scoring 3 or 4 and over, they were scoring 5 or 6 and over, and sometimes 7. So when they talk about this new phenomenon, Bazball scoring quickly, putting opposition under pressure, the Aussies were doing it under Waugh. If you go further back, the West Indies under with the partnership with Greenwich and Haynes, it's nothing new. It's nothing new, but it's like with football. You look at these coaches and they got this pride pressing game. Well, sorry, it doesn't change. The thing is, when you bat first, you put in a massive score and you put the opposition under pressure. So if you score quickly against them, then what will happen is that it'll put them under pressure. They start bowling half volleys, boom, you hit them again. And I think that's exactly what Bazball's about. It's basically replenishing a regurgitation of what we've seen before.
Mark, great batch in '92 for New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah, World Cup. He went for after players, or the Sri Lankas in '96 when they went after the bowling as soon as they got in.
Yeah, old wine in a new bottle, as we would say.
I agree on that because I think Baz was just, instead of just wanting to score or quickly just to put it at a team under pressure and score quickly, England are doing it just twice as fast. They're just trying to do it as twice as fast. That's why you saw in the first test, for instance, at 93 for 8 on the first day. But they're just scoring that quicker. So there's an Iran. But you mentioned the said and short ball. You mentioned it. I think it was after first test. I think after the Australia's first or second innings, might be the second innings. He mentioned that he knows the short ball is something he struggled with, but England are actually helping him improve it because he knows they're going to bowl the short ball, so he's getting more used to it. He's improving that area of his batting, and and I like that. I was thinking in that way. So I think it is alright. It's those other two. So be up yourself, Barker. Be up yourself. But before we can continue, do smash that like button, and turn on that notification bell. When you subscribe, it's not if you subscribe, you need to subscribe for more shows like these and of course football shows. So if you guys got any questions around this test, do put them there below. And is there any else before we move on to the lineups you guys might want to talk
Well,
about?
I think we did discuss the all-rounder trouble for Australia a little bit, and we were talking about the possibility of. I mean, you basically, Kenny.
Yeah, I can't mention it. I think, but you can say it's trouble. It's a good problem to have for it, isn't it? You think about it.
Yeah.
On their day, Australia got 2 world-class all-rounders. On his, Richard Marsh getting a century, you know, and one thing about Richard Marsh, he's a good team man as well. He's good, you know. He wants the team to do well. You only have to see the Amazon documentary where he says, "Oh, I'm going to be there for you. If anyone wants to walk me, they got a problem." So it's a good problem to have. But again, it's about, if Nathan Lyon was fit, they weren't. Only one was going to play, and I think we know that the one they will play wouldn't be Mitchell Marsh. It would have been Cameron Green because of the way, because Cameron Green's the one for the future. But it's a good option for the Aussies to have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nathan Lyon's absence is a big talking point because Hannah and I were talking about Todd Murphy, how he had a bit of a baptism of fire at Headingley. He did take Stokes' wicket in the first innings, but wasn't really effective, given only 2 overs.
Do you think he was trying to bowl too quickly?
It looks to be that way, and obviously, the thing about their strategy to Stokes, what I was able to see is that once again they were trying to entice him to hit a lot more, and the more Stokes hit, the more confidence he would end up getting. Although he ended up holding out a little bit, maybe he was trying to do too much. I think Lyon's absence for the rest of the series could very well be a bit of a blow for them, and we're going to talk about that because Murphy, I mean, he is talented, but it is very much a baptism of fire. Notwithstanding the fact that he did play against India in India. So this is a different kettle of fish for him, I would say.
Mm. Well, the pictures were dusty, innit? That pictures were dusty and suited him.
Yeah. And of course, you take a look at Cameron Green. I'm sure you'll agree that one name that comes to mind when you think of him is a certain Andrew Flintoff, although his batting hasn't really lived up to that, you would say.
Not really, but I think it's age, isn't it? When I look at Andrew Flintoff, people could say he's a great all-rounder. He had a great series against England, but if you look at it, Ben Stokes' numbers are better. He's had more match-winning performances than Flintoff, and he's no Ian Botham. But Flintoff has had a good series. You know what I mean? But Andrew Flintoff's made a great career from winning the Ashes, being a prominent figure of the Ashes in 2005. But is he on a level with Jack Callis? Really?
No. I mean, nobody regards him as a great. He's more of a cult hero. But I think in terms of the similarity of the styles, easily towering over 6 foot, someone who does bowl a heavy ball, really bustling in. That was why
I think his bowling became better. His bowling became better towards the end of his career than his batting. Whilst his batting was always the one for me.
Yeah,
I was never really impressed with his bowling when he first came into the England side.
Yeah, and the reason why we're talking about the all-rounder trouble as well is because you did say that Australia would be possibly bringing out an all-pace attack, and that's going to segue into England's prediction. But we are going to talk about Australia now, and your prediction that they will win the 4th test. What do you think their composition will be? And it could very well be that Todd Murphy misses out. I've not been too convinced by Scott Boland, though, it must be said.
No, Scott Boland. He had a good World Test Championship final. He bowled really well in Australia. But I think what it is again, it's the batsmen. They work you out. If you're bowling line and length, that's fine. But if you're not swinging it, then the batsmen get used to your pace. And what they've done is they've batted out their crease to bowling to the extent that wicket keepers are having to keep at the stumps to stop to counter England coming out of the crease. So what will happen is they're taking LBW out of the equation. They're also taking that kind of when he bowls his off cutters off the seam. So off cutters and leg cutters off the seam. If they're not giving the ball enough time to seam with that line and length, and I think that's what's happening. So what's happening is that he's not economical as well. So because they're batting that way, the ball's coming on short and they're hitting him, they're going to that slot. But it's only because they're using their brains. But again, that's what happens. If he was bowling like he normally bowls and he bowls 91 or 93 miles an hour, they can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you and I were talking actually on Instagram about how he reminds us of Paul Rifle. But I'm sure you also remember Matthew Hoggard and how he was more of the shop floor steward, as Vaughan would say. He also knew how to swing the ball well, but he wasn't expected to do too much with it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think with bowling, he's like I think what the MCG has become a kind of a flat wicket because it's be a bit of a seamer's paradise back in the 80s and early 90s. Became a flat wicket, so he's bowled alongside Pattinson, where Pattinson's the one who's the attacking bowler, and he's the one who holds up an end. And let's face it, he's if like Hazlewood doesn't play, then he plays. So he's a very very good substitute to have. But England just will work him up. But I'm sure he'll go. The thing about bowling is his age, isn't it? He's not
yeah,
23; he's 33, isn't he?
yeah. So it will. So according to you, it'll be an all-pace attack. Maybe no room
Well,
for Murphy with Head and Smith to bowl some part-time spinners.
yeah, but the problem is that one of the things that I think they're going to have to go with spinner because if you look at it over the years, when Australia haven't gone with spinner, then they've been battered out. Like England could bat them out of the match. Look what happened in the deciding series at the Oval in 2009 when they left that Horrocks. Didn't go with spinner. They had the part-time spin of North and Michael Clark. England battered them out of the game, and they were chasing a massive target. So the temptation is to go with an orthodox spinner. So I think that you might get another chance. You might get another because I do think that you need your spinners because if your pacemen ain't getting wickets and England getting used to the pace ball, you need something different. So I think that he will keep. I think that it'd be a mistake if he's left out. So again, it's if you keep Murphy, then you've got to make a choice between Mitchell Marsh and Cameron Green. And I think Cameron Green, because he hits the deck pretty hard, and you're giving him a bowling option and probably a possible wicket taking option, I think he'll get the nod over Mitchell Marsh. But it's a good
Right.
problem in Australia to have. But I think if they go out a spinner, I can promise you England will bat him out of the match and it'll be 2-2.
Right. So the only change you'd make would be to see Green come in for Marsh, and then I don't know if Hazel was injured. He probably would come back in for bowling.
If
Maybe.
Hazel's injured, then he'll probably they probably would play Mitchell Marsh because I think Scott Boland would have a rest because I think again if they may look at Scott Boland look at the fact he was pretty expensive but again they might give him another chance, you never know, or bowling from another end. But if Hazel isn't fit, you could probably play two all rounders, but they'll make a massive mistake if they leave out Murphy because
Yeah.
you have to have a spinner,
Right.
especially in this form of baseball. You don't want a situation where they're used to the pace of the ball and the bat, and then they post a big score. Don't get me wrong, they are going to go after Murphy, but what happens with baseball, if you get them hitting the ball up in the air, that creates opportunities to get wickets.
And that's exactly what happened to Ben
Yeah,
Stokes in the first innings at Headingley, second innings
yeah.
rather.
And
When
if we look at just the history there, we have seen big first innings totals, but in the
Mm,
second innings it drops off, and that's mostly to spin with the footmarks that are
mm,
created there. And Old Trafford is not known for its pace on the pitch. It's mostly a flatter wicket. Um,
mm,
when so changes for me, I agree with Poland. I said he will come in for Edingley. I think we you might need to just take him out. Again, it's not about arresting. I think it's just as Hazelwood or maybe Marsh can get something more out of the pitch. Um, but if they see when, of course, it's now when they come to the stadium and they see the pitch and they see it's a flat wicket, it's there's no grass. Then it's possibly they decide to go with bowling, try to see line and length, or maybe go with Mitchell Marsh. but I agree, Todd Murphy. Um, I don't know. Is there any openers available for Australia?
We were
Um,
talking. They were talk. We were talking about Renshaw and Harris, and I think
are they
Kenny
in the
made it
squad
crystal.
or not?
Well, Renshaw. I think Renshaw's left the Ashes party, so he was part of the squad, but I think he's left. So I don't know whether he's playing county cricket or whether he's been recruited for the 100. But he has been excused from the party. So the only opener available is Harris.
Yeah, Marcus Harris.
Um,
So it
okay,
would be
no, then
it would
Warner stays. Then
yeah, it would have been a very big call to have dropped Warner, but we have our theories about that. And now we're going to come to England's lineup prediction. And before we sort of segueing back into that, we got some interesting questions over here. Daz Reynolds, of course, has this question: if Addison does come in for the Old Trafford test, who is replaced? And I think we've answered that question, Daz. Ollie Robinson declared himself fit for selection, but if the back starts to act up a little bit, I don't see England taking any risk in that. So it could very well be that Anderson, with his knowledge of the Old Trafford pitch, will come back in. But I would not get rid of Wood or Wokes. They bowled excellently. They knew their roles. And of course, with Wood and Wokes combining with the Willow to secure the win, 4 W's right there. And Bhargav predicting an England win. England should win. I mean, obviously, a Chelsea fan wanting England to win the 4th test, but Australia might end up winning. Another question here from Bhargav. Wood is obviously a great player, but the spinners for England, we were discussing the spinners earlier on. We were talking a bit about Moeen Ali, but obviously, Kenny, you can just elaborate on Moeen Ali to answer Bhargav's question.
I think you're right. I think the problem is that where are the spinners in English cricket? They're not getting a chance. I think with getting Moeen Ali out of retirement was a kick in the teeth for every English spinner going.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, and for Stokes to do it is because I know Stokes when he was thinking about this, he said he wanted 8 fit fast bowlers. I didn't hear him talk about spinners because he obviously had Leach, who was someone who he carried on, and Leach had a good series in Pakistan. But in terms of like young spinners coming through, it's a kick in the teeth. I mean, there's a guy from Lancashire called Parkinson.
Yeah.
And that's it really. And was it a guy called Jax or something?
I think you're talking about Jax from is it Somerset or Surrey? I don't quite know.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, there's dearth of back spinners. But the thing about Moeen Ali is that Moeen Ali will give his all, and he does, and he will hold up an end, and he will get wickets because he does give it a bit of air. But in terms of like spinners, I think in English conditions, I think Wokes has played himself in the team because of his batting. Wood, you just need him for his pace. You actually need him. But I hear what you're saying, Bargoff, because again, Ben Stokes, is he going to bowl? That's the biggest elephant in the room. The bowling. So if he isn't going to bowl, that's another consideration. But in terms of spinners, there isn't any spinners except for Jack Leach. Obviously, I know you're doing Bargoff. You're asking Ahmed. Will he get a game again? One of the things that could count against Ahmed is not so much inexperience. It's the leakage of runs, isn't it? Because a leg spinner, because he's going to need a bit of bounce. If the ball's not spinning, boom, he'll go for a lot of runs, but he could get wickets. Wickets because he'll go after him. But I think with Rehan Ahmed, at his age and experience, he hasn't got the control of Moeen. So you're putting an experienced bowler in there, wrist spinner, who is going to try and take a wicket every ball because that's what young players want to do. It could be a situation where it's counterproductive, where he becomes expensive, very expensive, especially if you've got the greens and the Marshes in the team. And I think that's a bit of a risk. Hence the fact that Moeen, with experience, and he'll give control, especially if you've got someone like Addison who's not at his best. He's not going to want to say, or any other bowler is going to want, to be facing any pressure because runs are coming off Rahan Ahmed. So I think Moeen's a shoo-in.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, we've had some Wi-Fi issues, folks. I do apologise for everything. Yeah, but I was just about to say, Kenny, one of the things I really missed Michael Vaughan's captaincy was, you wouldn't call him a defensive captain, so to speak, but ever since the days of Atherton, Stewart, and Hussein, we finally had a captain who was able to, in my opinion, bring out the best in most of his spinners. And I think under him, you think of someone like Monty Panesar, who really came into his own and developed beautifully. And then, of course, Swan came back later on and did well under both Vaughan and Strauss. And yet, after those two, we seem to have had cases where bowlers would be selected. But in the case of poor Simon Kerrigan, also from Lancashire, that poor chap got the yips, and we never heard from him since. I just wonder if, when it comes to spinners, there's a lack of adequate coaching or mentorship, or whether people are just being, discouraged from taking up that ask.
I think what's happening is that with T20 and the 100 and one-day cricket, you would have thought there'll be loads of spinners producing loads of spinners, because one of the things that is very that you need in sort of one-day cricket, or dare I say white ball cricket, is someone who could take the pace of the ball and bowl slow to stop the flow of runs. So you can, but the problem is that our one-day teams all over the world are producing spinners, but in terms of Test cricket, we're not producing spinners because English pitches, green tops, bowlers who are not even hot, who haven't even got half the talent of Addison, are getting wickets, winning because all they have to do is bowl at 79, 80 miles per hour. Where the spinner doesn't come into it, doesn't get a chance, because, and the problem with England as well, whenever they have brought a spin, if he goes for a lot of runs, he's out of the team. There's no patience. England. You think since Swan, who's been out there?
Remember, there'll be any changes necessarily made
in terms of England?
Ahead.
Yeah, you mean in the lineup? I think Anderson will come in for Robinson.
That's a fair shout. Yeah. But your point there on the pitches, it's a very important one, because if you look at that Headingley pitch and the way most of the England batters struggled, that's something in that you don't really see in the 100 or pitches like that. Is that Headingley pitch with a bit of true bounce, and later on you get that's uneven bounce. You don't see that, and that's really the pitches you need if you want to develop players. So yeah. Question. Yeah. Would they have picked young Sam or Tom Curran? Don't think they play Test cricket.
No,
I think they have.
Yeah.
Both. I think both of them have played in the Ashes tour. I know Tom played in the Ashes tour in 2017, 2018. The problem with Tom and Sam Curran, they can't bowl. They can't bowl between 85 and 90 miles an hour. They don't. They're more suited probably to the one-day game, the white ball game. That's one of the reasons. And you talk about Sam Curran, all right, there. Sam Curran can bat, but with the ball against certain countries, be fine. But consistently, no, they just don't. They don't have enough pace. Pace, and I think what Stokes wants is what he wants, especially with his Ashes and moving forward. He wants fast bowlers.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think they will come in, really. So yeah. You think Anderson for Robinson?
I agree with that too. And obviously, because England will need a frontline spinner, so Ali stays. And if his finger has healed, perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. But Robinson has played all the tests.
Mm.
That should be good. That should be good. Opening wise, maybe Brook if Pope is not fit. Of course, that's another
Yeah,
problem.
forgot that.
I just
That's
remembered
that's the
Pope might not return. I think he's out of the Ashes.
He's out. He's out. He's out.
Yeah,
he's at the Ashes. So I suppose you've got it's a case of who's going to bat in number 3. You know, we know it. We know we're open. I think Mo will has offered to bat at 3. He's offered himself to bat at 3, and you know, but I'll say this respectfully, mowing at number 3 is a walking wicket.
Exactly. I
I'm
agree with
sorry
that.
to say it, but mowing's a walking wicket. So I think they're going to have to ask Joe Root to bat at 3 because
Yes, I agree with that.
I think
I don't know. Lawrence or Potts. I
oh
don't know
Dan
anyone like
Lawrence.
that.
Yeah, Dan Lawrence. I know they were talking. Dan Lawrence was in the last squad for Headingley. He played for the Essex in the T20 Blast yesterday. So that could be a call. I don't know. Has he been named on the squad, Dan Lawrence, for the
Yeah,
fourth
he's been
test?
named in the squad.
So yeah,
Uh,
you know they can give Dan Lawrence a chance because again he's been in and around the squad for a few years. You know, yet to get a Test 50, but you know he could be a good option at number 3 if given a chance. But you know what we've seen over the last maybe couple of years is that they've tried to push up Joe Root to number 3, where you get a feeling Joe likes to play at number 4, bat at number 4.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Joe Root has batted one drop before, and I think he has done well. But you have a point when you say that his preferred position would be number 4. And of course, we can't talk about bringing in new batsmen without talking about a certain Jonathan Bairstow, whose wicket keeping on his home ground was not an improvement over the last 2 tests, and also failed. He's been given the vote of a vote of confidence to play at Old Trafford, probably similar to David Warner in a way. It could be. A double-edged sword in that respect. But then there's also been talk about trying to bring someone like Ben Foakes in and have Bairstow play as a batsman because, those drops do cost you runs. I don't think you can talk about bringing in a new batsman without trying to completely shake up the batting order. And Brook actually proved his credentials by doing well in the second innings. I mean, the fourth innings at Headingley, rather, by showing that he's not just, someone who bushes it. He can play patiently, and he deserved a century, only to be sadly denied it. And then, of course, you can't leave out Root. And Bairstow, I think his batting has sort of faltered a bit after Lords, but he still lends a great deal. So I don't see any changes necessarily being made. Crawley and Duckett have done well, though.
Well, they've already said that Bairstow's going to keep wicket for the Ashes. So you know the Ben Foakes Foakes questions just isn't going to happen. Whatever happens, I think with Johnny Bairstow, so you think about it. Before he was Mr. Bazball last year. He was Bazball.
Yeah.
It wasn't Ben. It wasn't Stokes. It was Johnny Bairstow was Bazball. You think the run chases against New Zealanders? It was Bairstow. Then he broke his leg. I think since he broke his leg, in order to give the side a bit of balance and have long batting lineups, they've asked him to keep wicket. Yet he hasn't been playing much cricket, let alone batting, but keeping. But if you speak to Johnny Bairstow, and what I've heard is he actually considers himself as a wicket-keeper batsman. He wants to be the next, he wants to be the next Adam Gilchrist. But it's one of the things where he, on his day, he can be a great wicket-keeper. But I don't know. The thing with Johnny is that if you watch, I don't know if you guys are watching that, but if you look at Kumar Sangakkara when he talks about his wicket keeping, just a few feet in it. The ones that he's diving at, if he just moves further to the left, especially when Brawl's bowling down the leg side, he gets those catches. It's all because you look at his counterpart, Carey. He's getting those chances that Johnny's missing because of his positioning. So again, is it down his injuries? But in terms of like what Johnny gives England, it's a chase, isn't it? Australia put up, if say Australia put 280, 320 at Old Trafford, who do you want in your batting lineup? You want Johnny Bairstow there, especially when they're chasing big titles.
Yeah, I get that. And of course, we both remember the Alex Stewart, Robert Russell conundrum that we had even when England were going through their lean period. Russell, arguably, without doubt, the better wicketkeeper, but Stewart, far and away the more superior batsman, as someone who could add that balance. And Stewart's wicketkeeping, the difference there was that Stewart's wicketkeeping never really took a dip and suffered that much that people were really, clamoring for Russell to be back in the team. But sometimes it's those drops and those consistent failures which happen with other batsmen that start to make you think maybe playing a batsman as a wicketkeeper isn't the best idea.
But the thing is, Johnny had a few Benny Hill moments 4 years ago when he was a keeper as well, but they weren't so much as costly as it is Bill. But you know why people are looking at it is because in terms of the matches, it was really close at Edgbaston. Lords, anything could have happened if Ben Stokes didn't get out. And then obviously he dropped catches, but England won. But yeah, it's fine margins in terms of like the run. Every run is going to count because, as I said before, England are looking to chase down big totals, but they'll rather chase down smaller ones. And again, if you leak runs, it makes England's targets even bigger. But again, one of the reasons why England have won 11 out of 13 tests, especially early ones before Pakistan, was down to Johnny Bairstow.
Yeah, true.
So Bairstow gets your vote of confidence too.
100%, because the simple reason is that it's the balance of the side. Unfortunately, Adam Gilchrist has killed wicketkeepers. You're not the teams. You may be a great wicketkeeper, but you're not getting a game if you can't bat.
Yeah,
folks can bat, but not as well as Bairstow.
Yeah, I mean, Ian Healy was a decent batsman as well, but probably not an Adam Gilchrist. And of course, Russell could hold the willow, but certainly wasn't in Stewart's league. So
Russell's got a century. Yeah. Russell did get a century. Alan not got a century, but the thing with wicketkeepers, you want somebody who can come at number 7 and either maintain the control of the game or take the game back for the team. And that's what they want. Pryor, was he a great wicketkeeper? I don't think so, but he could bat.
Yeah. You feel for Chris Reed, but it is what it is. Hannah, you wanted to say something? Hannah?
I agree with that. Of Bairstow, I think I get why people want Ben Stokes for just a better wicket keeping, but you still have to put Bairstow just for that batting, because you never know. Maybe just at one time, one moment, he can score you 80 runs. And get you closer to a target, or maybe get you to the target. So, yeah, for me, changes. They might bring Dan Lawrence in for
you can't drop Brook and you can't drop.
Yeah, so I don't know. Then really would they boom? Yeah, I think it's just that Robinson one, really.
Yeah, for me,
just that Robinson.
Yeah, I'd go with Anderson coming in for Robinson. I mean, if his back spasms are that bad that he can barely even walk without doubling over, then you do not play Robinson. You bring Anderson back for a last hurrah at Old Trafford. Simple as that.
I think you've got to. I think Jimmy drew a good series. I think what's happened is that, you know, the first two pitches weren't Jimmy's pitches. You know, there was nothing in it for him. Nothing in it for him. He does need a bit of green in the pitch. He needs a bit of swing, and he needs a little bit more pace in the pitch. To be honest, I think Headley would have been perfect for him. But the thing about it, the only worry you have about Anderson is if there is a bit of pace in the pitch, will the ball get into the bat? He's one of the things which has kept Anderson's career going is that he hasn't really relied too much on his swing. It's the wobble seam. So if he can get the wobble seam going this Thursday, then that will get him back into the wickets. But one of the things we want from Jimmy is to take wickets. Simple, take wickets. We don't want him. We don't want maidens. We want wickets. The only way England will win the Ashes is if they get 20 wickets. And they have got 20 wickets, but they want to be able to get 20 wickets. At a sort of a lower scoring rate, because you can get 20 wickets, but if you're chasing totals of 350, you can't always. You're not always going to beat those world records. So what we want from Jimmy is wickets, but less expensively as well. But most importantly, Jimmy's got to take wickets. That's what he's in the side for. That's what Jimmy's known for, is wickets.
Exactly. And of course, we saw with Wood, Wokes and company combining to bowl Australia out cheaply, that might be the blueprint that they'll have to follow. Hanno, is there anything more you want to say?
No, I think we've covered everything. Really. I think that.
One question I need to ask you though, guys: if Jimmy plays, would he be getting a new ball?
Well, I mean, that's another issue that I would also have, because you talk about the wobble seam, and one thing which I remember you saying to me, Kenny, is that the thing about the new ball is that it doesn't swing as much as it seems. And that's not really as a play on words intended. It does seem a lot more. So you talk about the wobble seam, and obviously when you have a guy like Anderson who knows the Old Trafford pitch well, as you said, he probably should be sharing the new ball. Whether it will be with Broad, I don't know. I do like the idea of Wood coming in as first change, along with Wokes, with the ball slightly a little bit older. Could a bit of reverse.
I think it will be all right. Really. I think I think Markwood and Broad will open, and then Anderson will be the first change.
Questions.
We've had some Wi-Fi. Yeah, we've had some Wi-Fi troubles. But one thing which I was going to say about Wood briefly is that he also knows that if you pitch it up well and really pitch it further, you will get wickets. I mean, you'll remember Bruce Reid of Australia, who had a problem that he was certainly tall and menacing, but because he didn't pitch it up early, he wasn't getting the wickets. But once he started pitching it up, he was an absolute pain in the backside for.
Yeah, you're talking about 1990, 91 series. I think the thing with Wood, as much as we love the fact he bowls really quickly, again, it's just a section to injury as well. When I think what Stokes want to do is going to bowl him in short, sharp spurts. So I don't know. So Headingley, I was screaming for him to get a new ball, but he gave the new ball to Broad and Wokes, which worked pretty well for England. Again, Broad's definitely getting a new ball. He'll probably open the bowling, especially if Warner's going to take the first ball. So Broad's going to present, and then again, it's the ends as well. Personally, I would give Jimmy the new ball, because if you play Jimmy, you don't give him a new ball, then you're wasting. Then you shouldn't be playing him full stop.
Exactly.
You can't play Jimmy and not give him the new ball.
Exactly. You take advantage of the new ball when it's seaming, as you would say, and just let Wood and Wokes come in at first or second change to sort of make things a little bit more uncomfortable. So that's your form and pace attack for Trafford. I think once Kenny comes back on, we're probably going to end this stream because there have been some huge Wi-Fi problems which have affected all of us. And once again, big up to Hanno for hosting the stream, but also big up to Kenny. Thank you for joining us at such short notice. We're now going to give you the floor. Please tell us where we can find you, and we would definitely love to have you back on the show talking more about cricket, because I can tell just how happy you were to be here and talk with us.
Well, yeah, I'm at Kenny Ken 1972 on Instagram. I do a bit of Twitter, but Instagram's where I talk more to sport. Unfortunately, as you guys well know, Twitter is not a sporting platform. It's more of a political platform. It's more of a platform to bully and harass and make people's lives hell for one little mistake. So I don't want to be part of it. You know, my strengths has always been sport. As you know, I'm an Arsenal fan through and football's my love, and so is boxing. But, you know, I'm surprised that people are surprised that I'm a bit of a cricket fan, because I've never kept that a secret. But, you know, in terms of like the Ashes, one of the things I don't like about the Ashes is the timing of it. I think ECB have placed more emphasis on the 100. I know it makes them loads of money, TV money from Sky and the BBC, but really, truly, you know, the Ashes should always take precedent. I think they've rushed it through and rushed through the schedules, and look what's happened. Players are going down with injury because to the back of the test matches. It seems like every test series around the world, they're trying to cram it in together, not giving it like the 2 or 3 months it used to give. They're trying to get a test series in, make sure it's done by about a month to 6 weeks, and then let's play the one days because it makes us more money. You know, you're going to have a situation where the best players ain't going to play test cricket because physically they can't do it. And I think that's a shame.
Exactly. And this could be another example of how T20 could very well be the, the slow demise of international cricket. There's already talk about the 50.
Look what it's done to the West Indies. Look at the West Indies.
Exactly.
The West Indies didn't get to the last T20 World Cup in Australia, and they're not getting to the World Cup in India and Pakistan. Why? Because their best players are playing in the World Cricket League in America, and then they're going to be playing in to the PCB in Pakistan. Then they're going to go to the Big Bash. People like Andre Russell, you know, players like that, Andre Russells and Pollards. Why are they playing for the West Indies? What's going on? Why?
Yeah, but the West Indies, it must be said, of course, have themselves to blame in part for some of their own administrative issues. You will obviously remember the scandal at the time, which robbed the team of some of their best.
Are you pointing at Stanford?
Was leading a very something similar to that, yeah. Yeah, once again, we've got some big issues with the Wi-Fi, but we're going to wait for Kenny to come back. Yeah, you were saying about Stanford and Company.
Yeah, I'm talking about Sanford, Alan, Alan Sanford. That he was putting a lot of money in West Indian cricket. West Indian cricket was getting stronger, but it was stolen money.
Yeah.
But I think another thing with the West Indies as well is that cricket is not a way out of giving them a good life, because economically, the West Indies are doing better economically, especially Barbados. Plus, they're football fans. They want to be footballers.
True. I think most of the West Indies and all of them, I think most of them want to be footballers. So yeah. But going to end it here. Manny, your socials quickly.
Yeah, as usual, you can catch me on Instagram at MannyThungatherai1981. Kenny and I have some really good chin wags there. We're also part of an Instagram group where we talk about mostly Arsenal. And I'm also on Twitter at Thanga1981. Myself away from me.
Oh, it seems like he's frozen a bit.
Yeah. Any chance I get to talk about cricket will always be fun. But once again, thanks a lot to everyone who's joined in the chat. What was probably expected to be a 1 hour stream turned into something almost 2 hours. But once again, big up to Kenny for joining in. I think I speak for both Hanno and myself when I say that you really came in and made this stream a lot more enjoyable. And we do hope that you will come back
Definitely.
again in the
Oh,
future.
definitely. I'm probably gonna come on when God forbid England lose the Ashes and everyone's slagging off Bagsball and saying, "Oh, what a mistake! Bagsball's dead." I think that's going to be the next stream. Come the end of July, beginning of August. Was it a mistake for Bagsball to be prominent during this Ashes?
Yeah, but first we will see. But before I shut out all my socials and probably and predictions. I'm going to sit on the fence and say the rain is going to come down and ruin things. Um, that's my prediction. I don't know, Kenny.
3-2 Australia. Australia going to win this next
No,
test, and England will
this
win
test
it.
match.
Oh, this match,
Just
Australia win.
Australia won. Okay,
Yeah,
fair. How much? Like
I
you
think
could
no,
say how much.
I think they'll win. I think England will chase a big total and Australia will bowl them out. So England will probably chase about 320, and they'll fall short by 30 runs.
Close. I'm also probably going to have to go for. Actually, I'm going to stick my neck out and say that this test could very well be a draw. It's
Mm.
unlikely, but we could have a situation where both teams decide to take the game a little bit more slowly. I don't necessarily see the Old Trafford pitch causing as many problems as the Headingley one did, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say a draw, meaning that the Oval will be a winner takes all one. Actually, of course, if it's a draw,
And
then Australia retain the Ashes anyway.
Mm.
yeah, so yeah, it's a must win for England. But yeah, let me do my stuff. So yeah, yep, everyone that's tuned in, and smash the like button and subscribe, much appreciated. Yeah, do follow me on my socials: Instagram underscore coach underscore corner, Twitter on 70830030, and then TikTok Coach Corner 1, and then Twitch is let me just get it. It's, um, Twitch is Coach underscore Corner, I believe, and then Spotify is the same. So um, I bel I'll post some of these clips on Spotify, um, and of course on the clips channel and on Instagram. You guys want to have a look on there. So yeah, Coach is gone on Spotify. So yeah, do follow me on there. And before I play the outro, do check out our channel sponsor Global Foot Kids for authentic and cheap kits, and use the code Coach Corner for 10% off. Yeah, about big drop on Wednesday where um, most kits and shirts for next season and possibly last season kits will drop. So if you want to get a hold of a kit, then you know where to find it. It's not not expensive, really, honestly. So yeah, But that's anything else you guys want to say? Hey, quickly.
Congratulations,
I'm not.
Australia, on winning the Women's Ashes, and I hope I don't have to congratulate them at the end of this month.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. You feel for Nat's Cyber Brunt scoring a century, taking them close, but drop catches once again cost England, just like they cost Australia in the last one. But the women can be proud, I think. I'll be cheering them on when they play at Taunton.
I think Australia. I think they bowled a lot better today than they bowled on them in the game at Bristol, where the first swaffers they gave England a couple of free hits, and they're bowling in wides, very indisciplined bowling. But their bowling was much more disciplined, and that's why they won the match. And you know that last over
Absolutely.
from Wareham as well, getting 26 on that last over.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's that, people. We'll see you all on Wednesday. No, I'll see you all before Wednesday. Might do a transfer show or something like that. Um, so yeah, but definitely on Wednesday for for watch long. Hopefully, possibly just the last half an hour or so. So yeah, be up yourselves, be up Kenny, be up Manny. See you all in a bit. Cheers.